Good afternoon to you and welcome to another Paddocks Club video tutorial. This afternoon I want to tell you about something interesting that happened to me recently. I changed my mind. I changed my mind because I had to look at something more carefully and I came to a different conclusion to the one that I normally come to. Let me start by confirming that I'm dealing with the question of house rules, and particularly the issue of whether house rules made under pre-existing Schedule 1 rules are automatically brought into a scheme's management rules. So this really only applies to those schemes which were established before 1988 and which on the 1st of June 1988 had their pre-existing Schedule 1 rules automatically amended in terms of Section 60 of the Sectional Titles Act. Now, the conventional view, and the one which I have given in the past, is that as long as these are in the way in which those Schedule 1 rules normally describe them, being house rules that dealt only with the control, use, safety and cleanliness of common property, then they could in fact come through into the scheme's management rules. They would survive the comparison which was required in terms of Section 60, and you could have a scheme these days where the trustees had the power to make house rules. As long as those, of course, didn't conflict with the Act, they were reasonable and they applied equally to all owners. Well, I've had to look at this thing again recently, not all that recently, but recently enough that I've had to write an opinion on it, and the short answer is that I've changed my mind. I now, following some logic that in fact was first put down by Professor Graham Paddock, I believe that it is not possible for trustees to make rules, and so that if there are any schemes that still have house rule provisions, or if indeed a scheme wants to create such a provision today, they can't. And the reason for this is really threefold. And again, I confirm my indebtedness to Professor Graham Paddock in regard to this particular line of logic. So I don't think that pre-existing Schedule 1 rules that contained a provision allowing trustees to make house rules on 1st June 1988 automatically became part of the scheme's management rules. And the reason for this is that the Act and the provisions governing management and conduct rules exist so as to provide a system of checks and balances that stops these rules being circumvented by way of additional rules created by the trustees from time to time. Secondly, the body corporate exists and trustees hold office as creatures of statute, as it were, or as officers in terms of a statute, and their powers are derived either expressly or by necessary implication from the provisions of the Act and the regulations. And since there is no provision in the Act or the regulation that gives the body corporate or the trustees the power to make house rules, they don't have that power. Finally, the fact that the rules prescribed under the 1971 Act only remain in force to the extent that they are not incompatible with those prescribed under the current 1986 Act suggests that the legislature wanted to create a template for scheme rules that could not easily be deviated from. So my conclusion, therefore, a new one, is that schemes are not entitled to have a rule that says the trustees can make house rules, or call them whatever you will. Thank you for joining me in this Paddocks Club tutorial, and if you have any questions, please let's deal with those in the discussion forum.